Hi, John.
Joe, how's it going?
What's going on, man?
Not too much. Not too much. How about you?
Oh, it's all good. Nice to meet you. Where are you coming out of?
I'm based in Vancouver. Yourself?
Okay, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Cool. That's awesome. How's
Yeah,
it been?
yeah, I hear it's beautiful up there. Are you across I went to Vancouver, British Columbia, across from Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. That's where. Well, I'm technically in Richmond, which is like 10 minutes from the airport, but
Okay.
Seattle's like a stone throws away.
Okay, yeah, it's beautiful up there. I loved it for sure.
Yeah, it's
I
not bad.
I always remember I found a bench by a lake and I read Alan Lightman's Einstein's Dreams, and it
Oh,
was
did
one
you
of
really?
the greatest like tranquil moments. I just wanted to read a book on foreign soil, and it was really nice. So
I
it was
mean,
cool.
it's gorgeous out here. That's one of the things. I just came back from a weekend getaway in Whistler, and you're out in the mountains. You're out by the snow. A lot
Yeah.
of fresh air. It's there's a lot to like out here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, man, it's great to meet you. I want to begin our conversation before we get into your life as an entrepreneur of surviving the last 3.5 years of a pandemic. How did you get through it, and how did it change you?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, you know, I think when I look at the people around us, a lot of people either it was kind of like a pressure cooker, you have people that thrived in that environment and there's people that really struggled. And I think for us, I was lucky. I was lucky that we thrived in the sense that the we had like at the start of the pandemic, my parents, in who are in their 70s and 80s, they fly back and forth between here and Canada. And so we're lucky that at the start of the pandemic, they were flying back, and this was a better place for them to be at. And we had them within our household to take care of them. But at the time, it was my parents and my wife and I in the house, and it was tough in a sense that everybody was facing each other, but it also kind of gave us an environment where my wife and I just took care of everything and got to really test to see how we lived together. And I think for us we got a lot closer. We got to hang out with each other every day, and the cliche is like, we picked each other as best friends, and we got to spend a lot of time together, and we built a business together. And so I think in that sense, it gave me a real sense of what it's like to live with this person and in a tense and stressful environment, and it taught a lot about ourselves, and it gave us a chance to focus on our work. So I think overall we came out stronger than as a couple, as friends, as partners, than we did before. But it wasn't. I don't think it was for everybody, and I think a lot of people struggled, and I think we were on the luckier side.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into the essence of what you do as an entrepreneur. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's
Sure.
career day, and one of the curious kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that
Mm.
child?
I think the best way to say is, when you go to like the mall and you see all these like pretty pictures in front of storefronts, I make that. And so I think that's how I probably captured it in a nutshell.
Right on. So, let me ask you this. What did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
Mm. I grew up wanting to be an animator. So right now the punchline is we're advertisers. We run performance marketing as an agency for e-commerce and software brands. But growing up though, I wouldn't have thought that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an animator. I loved drawing as a kid. I was good at drawing as a kid, and I was inspired by a lot of there was a Japanese director by the name Miyazaki Hayao, and he did all these like Studio Ghibli like animations, and it kind of inspired me to realize how powerful art and designs could be to convey messages, and it always gravitated towards me. And so I think as I got older and as transitioned into a real career, that upbringing of art and design really played out for me.
Absolutely. So, who's been a hero for you in your life?
Mm. I've had a lot of really positive influences, but I think one person that had a really deep impact on me was his name is Wyatt Woodsmall. He's a trainer for something called neurolinguistics programming, and he was actually one of the original trainers for Tony Robbins. And he taught me a lot about language patterns, and I went through like a formal training with him. He taught me a lot about language patterns. He taught me a lot about um, uh, linguistics and how it pertains to the way humans think and shape language. I think that's one really big influence. And then the other influence would be I trained as an athlete growing up, and my Olympic coach, he taught me a lot about life and business and just general character and development.
That had to be hardcore to be at Olympic training. Were you training for the Olympics?
I was training for the Olympics. I didn't make it. My teammates did,
Okay.
but it gave me the environment for seeing what the bar was for being world class in a particular field.
Okay. What was it? What were you in? What was your event?
This was Taekwondo. So I
Oh,
did Taekwondo.
Taekwondo.
That's right. I did. I competed nationally between 2001 to 2012.
Okay, wow. So let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that's inspiring to you, who would it be?
Mm.
Who would you love to meet and talk to?
I think it'd be a toss up between Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozy. So Tony Robbins, because I don't think anyone had an interaction with him and walked away feeling, man, I felt awful about that. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation with him. And Alex Hormozy, I have a lot of respect for the way he thinks, the way he talks, the way he approaches business and life. So I think a lot of interesting conversations there.
Yeah, for sure. So what is the motivation for you every day? You're obviously highly motivated. What is that gas in your tank that makes you run and evolve and be who you are?
The short answer is the fact that I get to do this every single day. When I recognize and look around the opportunities that are in front of us, I grew up as an immigrant kid, and realizing what my parents gave us as a chance to thrive in a North American market, and you see that we grew up with the internet. How could you not do what we do every day? You have all these opportunities in front of you, being able to speak the language, being able to have access to fast internet, having all the opportunities to create businesses, run like our ancestors and the previous generations would dream of this kind of stuff, and we just have it every single day. Think of how different and difficult it would have been during the pandemic if we didn't have access to fast internet and all these
Yeah,
technologies and tools available to us. So it's a blessing. So
absolutely.
I'm absolutely cherish what we have every day.
So what's been your best success story as a professional so far?
Mm. I think there's a few that I can think of that I'm really proud of. So going back, I dropped out of school, so I think I didn't have a lot of direction. Everything that I did in the major sort of pivots in my career were around figuring out what the next immediate sort of step that was available to me, and it always worked out for the better in one way, shape, or another. And so, the quick summary is, I um, I transitioned from being a designer to doing consulting to writing software to running an agency. And I think each of those successions, it's hard to prescribe as advice as a career path, but it made a lot of sense for me. And so I've made a lot of money for ourselves. I made a lot of money for our brands and clients that we worked with. So I think, it's I think that trajectory, I think, is something that I'm very proud of. Um, but for a specific sort of like event or what have you, it, you know we made a decent amount of money doing real estate purchasing for the last 10 years. We made decent money for clients running their e-commerce brands. um, and so I think those are kind of the some of the highlights without getting specifics.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into a much younger version of yourself, say a senior in high school. You could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life so far. What advice would you dispense on your young version?
Hmm. For me, it would be trust your gut. Trust your gut and trust that everything's going to be okay. And I think I had all this manic energy growing up of wanting to be more and do more without realizing how things going to end up. But looking back now, things played out a lot better than I would have imagined. But I probably could have gave myself a lot less stress going through that process if I just recognized that my heart and my gut was leading me down the right path.
So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Mm. I'd have to say, there was an old boss that I worked with. He was a great, brilliant thinker. He was a great designer. He was well known in the industry, and I was asking him for advice. There was a chance encounter that we had with Jeff Bezos. He was giving a talk at the office, and I'm like, I'm 25. This guy's worth $23 billion at the time. Like, what do I ask this guy? And the advice that he gave me was, when you ask anyone for questions or advice, generally the best way to get at the source of the original thinking is to think about and consider all their upbringing and all the different things about that particular person that makes them uniquely them. And it taught me a lot about how to assess and meet people and find and source original thoughts, sometimes in ways that the other person doesn't recognize for themselves. And so, to summarize, the advice is to seek what makes someone original. And um and when you can do that, you can make a very lasting and powerful impact on the other person, as well as getting a lot of interesting conversations out of them.
Absolutely. So, of all of the things that you've done and accomplished and overcome and become, what are you the proudest of?
um I would say I'm very proud of the people that we have around us. I'm very happy with picking the wife that I picked. I'm very happy with the friends and families that I have. And I think the reason why I lean on that is that a lot of the career successes that we would have, or you make money, or you have like your trials in your businesses or what have you, a lot of it really comes down to, at the end of the day, what do you end up with? And it's people and it's love. And I think we've built a very good network of friends and family. And I feel very lucky to, I wouldn't say proud, I feel very lucky to have that. Um and I guess the proud aspect of it comes from the fact that I have to do certain things and be a certain way in order for me to attract the type of people around me. And so I feel very fortunate.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one event in human history with your own eyes, where would you go? What would you love to see happen?
I don't know is the real answer. Um, I'm not sure. I
Okay.
don't have a
All
good answer
right.
for you.
Yeah, that's cool. No worries. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. All of the people that know you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you actually run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm. So for a while, especially during like darker times and sort of like my own sort of upbringing, I've noticed that I was very hard on myself. But one thing that I realized um, going through that period was, if I was such a you know terrible person, if I was such a shithead or whatever else I would deem myself to be, why do I have all these people that love me? And I realized what I am to people and how I see myself now is that I think I bring joy in my version of it to other people. We have a lot of support, we have a lot of love from people around us. And so I'm not perfect, but I'm okay with who I really am. And I think what that means is that I I recognize my zone of genius is in the originality and the ideas that I bring to problems and situations, and seeing the best in people. Going back to the idea and advice that I had about original thoughts and originality. And so I think I see myself as that person that can bring that to other people, and I try to live with that, with the way that I run our business and the way we interact with other people around us.
So obviously going after something like the Olympics and something like Taekwondo, you love the sport. What is it that you got out of it that you love the most?
Hmm. So Taekwondo in Canada, there's no real path to being a professional. And even if you're a carded athlete, there's only maybe like two spots to be a professional athlete out of. And there were no influencers back then. There was no sort of real career path compared to other countries that have probably proper sponsorships and what have you. And what it taught me was the value of doing something when there's no monetary value attached to it for a long period of time, and the sacrifices that you have to make along the way. And so I think one thing was, it taught me to trust my gut and value the vocations and the activities of, like, what do I really value this thing, what I'm doing it for. And so again, going back to the earlier thought about trusting my gut, it really honed that aspect of, what am I really doing this for. And the second thing that it did for me was that when I get into any particular field, whether if it's, again, I talked about, changing career paths, it taught me the process of going from 0 to 60 in a particular field very quickly, because all I had to do was look at what are the things that people are unwilling to do that I'm willing to do. And if I can do that, then I can reach a certain percentile of the particular sort of like group. So if I think of all the different media buyers or designers or software programmers or business entrepreneurs or whatever field that I get into, what are the things that I'm willing to do that other people are not? And if I did said thing, um, willing to do or able to see that other people could do but didn't do, it made me realize I can get to a certain progression really quickly. Not world class, because I think that requires a certain amount of dedication that other people are that you can't do as a generalist. But going from 0 to 60 in a particular field, it showed me the path to get there.
Interesting. So if anyone out there wants to hire you, learn more about you, reach out to you, anything about your world, where do they go?
For sure, best place to find me is, you can go to our website, 2x.agency. You can find me on LinkedIn, so John Chan at or you can find me on Twitter. So I'm on Twitter at JPCCHAN, on Twitter. Love to connect.
Right on. I'll put all this in the show notes. John, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and story. Best of luck with everything.
Likewise, thank you so much, Joe.
Take
Fun
care.
chat.
See you. Bye-bye.